My name is Ben Bugale.
My name is Vince Bazzelli.
And you're listening to pixelprojectradio, a video game and video game club style podcast where we talk about games we've played recently. We do deep dive reviews, and most importantly, we discuss the games we, all of you and us here at the podcast, love. Vince, what game are we talking about today?
Today's game is a classic beloved by all that love Mario platformers, Super Mario Sunshine.
Super Mario Sunshine, which, if I can be honest with you, it was the first Super Mario game I had ever played in my life.
Yes. Actually, I did not play 64 first. This was the first one that I played just because of the age that I am.
Wait.
So I was born in 94, and this game came out in 02.
Okay, that's fair.
So I was 8. Yeah.
That's fair. To be honest, I was a Zelda guy, and so I kind of kept Mario at an arm's length, which I know might sound weird, but I just did. And then one day, my now good lady wife suggested that we play Super Mario Sunshine because, get ready for this, she never knew her life without Mario because her parents played Mario and bought a Nintendo when they were dating and got married. And so, Victoria has literally always had Mario in her life. Is that not wild?
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that nostalgia factor of it for you. Kind of ties it together. And nostalgia is something that people really think about when, at least people that have been playing video games for a while, they're in their mid-20s, when they think of this game, they think of nostalgia. It makes you feel comfortable.
Absolutely they do, and it does. And I mean, even though I didn't grow up playing Mario, it's not that I didn't play Mario Kart or any of those other games. I just, I associated him with my childhood, even though I had no actual memories. You know what I mean? But it's kind of beautiful that he echoes through time. So, Vince, would you like to give us your review and rating of Super Mario Sunshine?
Oh, absolutely. I really, I put a lot of thought into this one. You ready?
Yes.
Super Mario Sunshine brings Mario to a tropical oasis and, in the timeline in my head, Luigi to a mansion that sucks, and siblings between the age of 8 and 12 really confused. This game knew exactly what it was doing. 7.5 out of 10.
That's hilarious, and I think the nail is on the head there. Okay, so I have here, Super Mario Sunshine was worth the wait from Mario 64, showcasing creative mechanics, a killer soundtrack, a curious story, and no bones thrown challenges. Isle Delfino provides vastly diverse platforming for our Italian, Japanese, American plumber to scale and traverse with a little something for everyone. 9.3 out of 10.
Whoa, 9.3.
I thought, bugs and all, I thought it was just, and hear me out. I rate this based on the level of diversity as previously mentioned, because I think about different levels in the game, which we'll get to, but some of them are so, X-axis. They're sort of more horizontal, but then there's plenty that are vertical, and there's a lot of challenge, and I like challenge. I like when the bone isn't thrown to me. It's why I like a lot of games made by Rare as a company. So that's...
I agree with you, but I like a challenge where the mechanics are consistent, and sometimes you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. I can't tell you how many times, and we can segue into gameplay, I'm assuming, because our ratings, this game is not a game of story, pretty much. The story is pretty bare bones. Mario, you arrive on the tropical island that's polluted. Maybe that's a metaphor for society. But anyway, we are the consistency of controls for me was so all over the place. I would slide off platforms. Sometimes the camera would just yank me somewhere. Oh, and yeah. Sometimes I would get pushed somewhere by moving the camera. Oh, that's how awful it was.
The camera is more or less a travesty. Less of a travesty than Super Mario 64. But it's difficult to manipulate all the same. For me, and perhaps I'm blaming myself here. I guess I rated it so highly because I've kind of made peace with the fact that he's a humanoid jelly bean. in that he slips and slides and falls all over the place. Because to be honest with you, when like the adrenaline's flowing in certain challenges in the game, I am suddenly like I am like Oscar Wilde writing a poem. Like it is just flowing.
Oh, and the adrenaline does fly, and you're just like, well, no going back now.
No.
Here we go, kids. Like a forward ho.
And it pays off.
Like, sometimes it does pay off, but other times when the control stick is so sensitive and yeets me off the ledge on a really sensitive platformer,
yeah,
it annoys me. But you're right, Ben. Maybe I did. You know what? I can't go back on my reading, but this is still a really fucking good game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It still is.
Yeah,
it still is. And I gotta get the numbers right.
I can understand though where you come from, because sometimes having those controls that are borderline broken can really cause the score to deteriorate. The opposite. Well, no, that's. I was going to say something about the opposite of deterioration is, and then I thought I don't have a word for
the
that.
opposite of deterioration is.
I was wondering if we might be able to talk a little bit about development before we go into gameplay, if that's cool with you.
Let's do it. Sorry, I put the cart before the horse.
My friend...
I got a little too excited.
Well, it's an exciting game. It's a great game. We love it, and it means a lot to both of us. So, I'll lead off. So this technically is the second 3D Mario game to come out following Super Mario 64 in 1996. Only this time, it was released on the Nintendo GameCube, and I believe that was in the year 2002, but we can get down to...
That is correct. It's 2002. Yeah. This was released on an optical disc, which was a big deal. There weren't that many GameCube games that had released. I think Luigi's Mansion released before this game, right?
I actually don't know, but I will pull that up as you continue.
This is 5 years after Super Mario 64, but it still retains a lot of the core mechanics of Super Mario 64, so that's a big point in development. They added, obviously, Flood. And Flood is a mechanic we'll talk about in gameplay, but it came out for the GameCube, and this was one of the earlier Nintendo exclusive titles that we saw. So this was a really big deal, and everyone was talking about it when it came out.
Absolutely, and you were absolutely right, by the way, about Luigi's Mansion. It came out, I believe that was September 14th, 2001 was the date I just saw and closed out of, because I do that too quickly so often. But it was 2001, so you were absolutely right.
Nice.
This game came after the disappointing failures to launch, we can call them, of Super Mario 64 2 and or Super Mario 128. There was a lot of confusion about what was the next Mario going to be, but ultimately Sunshine prevailed, and it was first shown at Nintendo Space World, and then again, and that was in 2001, and then it was shown again at E3 in 2002. And I'd like to say Nintendo Space World really... cocked my eyebrow, and I kind of thought, what in God's name is Nintendo Space World? And I looked...
Tell us more about Nintendo Space World, please.
I'll tell you as much as I can, which is more or less that it's just... it was a video game trade show hosted by Nintendo from 1989 to 2001. So that's why we don't talk about Nintendo Space World. Yeah, so there you have it.
I love that. Nintendo had such weird... shit, like the GameCube launch. Have you seen the pictures of the GameCube launch?
I don't believe I have actually seen those.
There's like pictures of, it's like Britney Spears is there, Kanye West is there, like all of these big name musicians and celebrities are there holding GameCubes.
That's really interesting. And
yeah, early 2000s Nintendo was on some stuff. They were, whatever they were doing, I mean, I think Sunshine saved them. Because of Super Mario 64 2 or whatever the hell that they wanted to call it.
Yep.
It was weird enough to be interesting, and this is kind of where they started to branch off into Mario like using tools.
Yeah.
In his gameplay, instead of just like carrying things around, like having something that he keeps on him at all times. Keep that motherfucking thing on him.
And he did, and it was brilliant.
And she talks, and she's also a philosopher. She's a wise woman.
Well, she technically, it is a she, isn't it? Because I always thought it was just a device, but I guess they have gendered this. It really is a machine, which we will definitely get to. This game was developed following the success of Majora's Mask. And exactly as you were saying, they stuck to the idea of Mario using a water pump, which... has changed the landscape of Mario for basically all time. I mean, if we look at Odyssey, we've got Cappy, and to be honest, those are
If you look at Galaxy, you have the Wii Remote pointer function with the star bits that you can use.
Oh yeah.
That's a tool. But Galaxy kind of went back to the Mario roots. Just normal Mario.
I still have yet to play it, and I will, but I am playing through Mario 64 right now to officially beat it, because I'd never beaten it, but Victoria and I are playing through that, so that's a great time.
Yeah, this game I beat multiple times when I was a child.
And I don't blame you. It's wild fun, but it's a little bit of a bear for the thumbs at times. The main level, and I bring this up in development because you'll hear why. Isle Delfino, Delfino is Italian for dolphin, and dolphin was the code name of the GameCube. It was designed, the Isle Delfino, the main level of Super Mario Sunshine, it was designed after the team who created the game visited France and Italy, though there's plenty of Caribbean and even Hawaiian feels to it too, don't you think, Vince?
Yes. Especially in the sense of the music. It's not really like representative of very like stereotypical, I guess, European music, for lack of a better word, or like Italian music. It's very Caribbean.
It is.
A lot of Caribbean influences.
Oh yeah. No, there's
steel drum,
yeah.
Stuff like that.
There's steel drum, there's horn line, there's a few other things. I think there's some like glass guitar and other sort of things littered throughout too, give an ambiguous island sort of feel, but yeah, it's really curious. And it's worth mentioning in development that Charles Martinet and his spaghetti pizza returns for the voice acting. So they kept him on board. And the reason I say spaghetti pizza, because I believe that's what he said when he auditioned for the part of the voice of Mario.
Oh my god.
It's a really silly video, but there's a great big story.
I need to find that. There's also a quote by Charles Martinet that says, this is the most underrated Mario 3D platformer.
Really?
In his opinion, yes. So this is a personal favorite of his, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool, right? It's a cool little tidbit.
Shall we talk a little bit about release and some sale numbers?
Yeah, this one's all you. You go for sale numbers.
All right. Well, I can start by saying the game was released in Japan in July of 2002, the United States in August of 2002, though it experienced a great amount of revitalization when it was released again in 2020 in the Super Mario 3D All-Star package. So that was, to be honest, that was a godsend in the midst of pandemic.
Yeah. I it was a nice rejuvenation of the games. Whenever there's any kind of reboot, it kind of puts it back in the zeitgeist, and it was nice to get people talking about these platformers again. A lot of people talk about 64, a lot of people talk about Galaxy, but not a lot of people talk about Sunshine, so it was a nice refresh. I wish they would have, if we could have a little aside for
please
our opinions on
take me aside.
The 3D collection. Ooh. So, what do you think about the 3D collection, specifically Sunshine in the 3D collection? And did you play this game through that?
The first time I played through this game was actually using my brother-in-law's copy of the disc and using it on a Nintendo Wii. I did this playthrough with All Stars. The only real frustration for me was the fact that they didn't fix some of the bugginess. They didn't fix some of the holes that are in the game. It felt like they copied and pasted it. And while I like the idea that they kept the older graphics, my good lady wife and I have discussed at length, could they not have updated the graphics like what they did with Wind Waker and what they are doing with Skyward Sword as well? What are your thoughts?
Right. Well, I played this game on Dolphin, which is the GameCube emulator, which is also like a reference back, a harken back to the original codename for the GameCube. But on Dolphin, you can just crank up the anti-aliasing and the texture resolution, and it looks pretty much the same as All-Stars does. So if just by artificially cranking up the resolution on an emulator with optimization for the Switch. Like putting it in a whole new engine, like something, anything, just to make it a reboot that's worth paying $60 for. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And I know... go ahead, after you.
I don't know. I would like to hear your opinion on that.
Well, here's the thing. The reason that I give them a pass on the $60 reboot, which Nintendo, this is, if you are listening, Nintendo, this is not me giving you permission to just do this every time. But the reason that I give them a pass in this instance is because if you think about it, it's $20 per game rather than $60 for one. And I know that games are, substantially bigger nowadays. But if somebody came up to me and said, here's a copy of Super Mario Sunshine on Switch for $20. Sure, okay. If you're buying 3D All-Stars for one of the games, it's a mistake. If you're buying it for all three, I think it's okay.
Okay, I see your point there. I agree with you, actually, in that sense, if you think of it $20 per game. But most of the people... Actually, that's not true. I can't make that generalization. I was going to say that most of the people who really cared about these games were old enough to have played them the first time around. That's not necessarily true in the point that you had not played Super Mario 64 all the way through. So my point's kind of moot there. But I still think that re-releasing games for a price tag should yield the end user something more than just a rebrand. I really don't like rebrands across all companies. And I love Nintendo. But I just think that it was kind of a money grab in the midst of the pandemic to like appease shareholders perhaps, or something like that us peons do not understand what the capitalist overlords do. So like maybe it was just them being like, hey, we really need some big numbers right now. It's the middle of a pandemic. What do we do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I felt that way watching the Treehouse. I was sort of like, okay, you're throwing milk bones when what we want are pig ears or are, like filet mignon. Like give me something a little bit. I'm sorry, I went from like 0 to 120 with pig ears.
No, I'm not
mignon.
familiar with the Treehouse. That's why I'm making this face, because I don't know what it is.
It's Nintendo's E3 representation, they call it.
Oh,
Treehouse.
Okay. I always just thought it was like Nintendo Direct. That's like what I always refer to it as.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is Nintendo Direct, but if you type in Treehouse, it's like, ooh, this is what's coming. Where were we?
We were talking about the 3D collection.
Yes. At Nintendo Treehouse, or Nintendo Direct, you say potato, I say potato. Whatever you want to call it. They threw some things at us that felt like consolation prizes, and that was... I don't consider Skyward Sword a consolation prize. I loved that game, even though I know it was received poorly by a lot of people. But there were some other things that kind of felt frustrating. And then on the other side, arguing myself, is the fact that I know that the high-ups at Nintendo have said a bad game is a bad game forever, so we're going to do this once. Like
about
any game.
About which specific game? Like
about anything.
Like about anything?
Yes.
So they won't make a second version or like they won't make like a sequel if the first game was bad?
It's not that. It's more so, from what I was interpreting, and I could be wrong. Maybe it's not a high up at Nintendo. If I'm wrong, somebody let me know, please. To that end, if a game is bad, like let's just make up a game like Cyberpunk. If a game doesn't function well and it's released too early, it's that way forever. Now, granted, nowadays we can patch things and go back, but
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no periodic updates, is what you mean to say, is what you're trying to say.
Right. They're saying basically, and especially whenever you think about the games that they released between 2000 and 2010 that really didn't have that sort of element of updating. Think about it. They've got one shot. Like, imagine if they would have, used a different mechanic that really broke Twilight Princess, or if they used something that made everybody cringe playing Galaxy. I mean, those games are then forever remembered as disappointments. So Nintendo's here to make, they're going to measure 80 times cut once.
Right, and even then, they let the shitty platforming mechanics get through and the weird stick sensitivity that makes zero sense to me.
And sometimes I wonder if that's some sort of, they're trying to make him float so that if somebody plays Mario enough that like Mario is them. Like if you become one, it's sort of like in Sweeney Todd whenever he picks up the knife and he's like, my arm is complete again. Like I'm sure that if somebody was sitting down playing Super Mario Sunshine for 40 hours a week, which most humans aren't, at least I would hope not, or
speedrunners,
or rather would I hope for it. But that's just it. Look at speedrunners. Look at how eloquently their hands move when they play. I mean, they are attached to the game. There's no difference between them. So I'm wondering if that's their idea of you will feel the true reward of this game if you play it to this level. Sometimes I wonder that with Mario because he's very floaty and shifty and bouncy, and it's not that he's unpredictable. It's just that he is, again, humanoid jelly bean.
He's very bouncy and momentum based in this game. But not in the way that he is in Super Mario 64, where it's... I think it's the very specific camera angle in this game that keeps you from seeing depth. Because you can see depth in 64, and you can't really see depth in this game. It's very difficult to do. And that's what throws me off. And landing from high distances and keeping that momentum is a mechanic that is not present in really any other Mario game. You kind of just like stay where you are if you fall a long distance. That threw me for a loop.
Absolutely, and I can understand that. So, but we'll talk more on mechanics shortly. Let's go back. You talked about a money grab at one point, which I'm going to throw my fishing line into that word money grab, reel that, and jump into the sales numbers so that we can keep rocking.
Oh my god, I forgot we were still talking about sales. I'm sorry, Ben.
we just love the game, and we have a lot of feelings. I have a lot of feelings, and so we're gonna dig in.
I'm so sorry.
No, nothing to apologize for, my friend. We've got 400,000 copies of Super Mario Sunshine sold within the first 4 days that it released in Japan. So I mean, it. Think about it. That's 100,000 copies a day, which honestly it was probably more front-loaded, or the stores ran out. Who's to say? And in the United States, it was over 350,000 copies were sold within the first 10 days, which surpassed the sales of Grand Theft Auto 3, Halo, and Super Mario 64, which consequently caused the GameCube to be bought. Which, nowadays a lot of GameCubes are collecting dust. But man, at that time, if you had Kirby Air Ride or any of the other, 12 titles that were gold for the GameCube, you were rocking and rolling. It was a good time. You were eating pizza bagels and all that kind of stuff. So
I'm still eating pizza bagels.
God bless you.
They're delicious.
It's worth saying that in Europe, which we didn't really talk about the release in Europe, but just because, we don't think about that too terribly often, 175,000 copies were sold within a week of its release. So that's a big deal. But all that to say,
wow,
I know, right? All that to say, in Japan, over 620,000 units were sold by October of 2022 or 2022. Listen to me. What year is it? By October of 2002. I am not trying to hurry to 2022. Goodness gracious.
Me neither.
So that's what we're looking at sales-wise. It did very well, and I think it was at one point the 10th best-selling game in the United States. That was in 2002. So there you have it.
What was above it? Do you remember?
I do not remember.
Unfortunate.
I know. But no,
it's okay. I forgive you.
Basically, thank you. Basically, it made a lot of money. And by
the GTA statistic surprises me very much, and the Halo one, really, truly does.
I think the reason why it surpassed is the good and bad thing about Nintendo. Well, I guess it's a good thing about Nintendo, which is that it's a family-friendly console. Now, think about how many people were playing video games extensively. It's really our generation. It wasn't everyone. I mean, there are some people who absolutely love video games, like Victoria's parents. And she would actually
love that for you.
She would actually ask her parents for help playing Mario and Banjo-Kazooie and stuff. Can you imagine? I think that's amazing.
I think that's incredible. One day I'll help my kids do that.
That's what I'm saying. But I think that's why Mario Sunshine took off. Because think about Grand Theft Auto 3 and Halo. when I think about it, I think about my mom saying, "Oh, we can't buy Halo." It's like, "Mom, we don't even have an Xbox." Well, you certainly shouldn't be.
Oh, that's a great point.
Shouldn't be playing Grand Theft Auto 3. Well, I mean, I eventually got a PlayStation 2, but guess who couldn't buy Grand Theft Auto 3? So, to that end, Super Mario Sunshine is benign by all accounts. But
Right, you're gonna say like it's a much better game for bringing families together than GTA or Halo,
which I think is
Mom doesn't care who Master Chief is,
no, or Master Chef. I think that's his name.
You're right.
Master
Sorry.
Chef. No, it's okay. All that to say, by 2006, by July specifically of 2006, 2.5 million copies were sold for $85 million. So even just up to 2006, I mean, that's what we're looking at by the numbers. So it took off. And how couldn't it? The world was awaiting Mario. The eyes of all wait upon thee. Sorry. That was me.
Wait upon what?
No, that's I just had a sacred music nerd out moment because there's an anthem by a man by the name of Jean Berger who wrote this beautiful setting of the eyes of all wait upon thee, which is a psalm, I believe. So I will spare you of that nerding out, but that's what we're looking at for release and sales. Shall we talk a little bit about the story? You already kind of led us.
Before we talk about story, Ben, can I just say we should have a segment called Ben by the Numbers where you do numbers for games.
I am the least numerically inspired person on God's earth, but hey.
But I was very happy to sit here and listen to you tell me about statistics. And, well, not really statistics, just sales, but I liked it.
Well, I liked digressing with you all the way to sales.
About gameplay through the Mario 3D All-Stars through the numbers section. Ooh. And that was Numbers by Ben with interludes.
Many an interlude, and they were all wonderful. So,
they were.
Vince, take us through the story. You started on it a little bit earlier, but tell us the plot. Tell us how things happen.
All right, so we are on Isle Delfino, which is Delphin. It's Delphin in Italian. It's
Delphin.
It sounds like a tuna brand. We're on Isle Delfino, and Isle Delfino is in the ocean because it's an island. Well, it could also be on a lake, but it's in an ocean. Okay,
it's not Lake Erie, everybody. It is not in Lake Erie. You can't find it there.
Dear God, no, it's not Lake Erie, and it is surrounded by 4 other islands. One of them shaped like a crab. The other one is shaped like a sea turtle. One of them shaped like a tiny jellyfish. And then to the northwest is an island shaped like a fish. And those are the 4 islands that it's surrounded by. So think of like it's in the middle of a square of islands. So that's where Isle Delfino is. And the people of Isle Delfino are just called like Delfino people.
I think.
Like I don't know what their actual names are.
I think the quote races are called Piantas and Nokis.
Okay.
I think that's what we're dealing with.
I don't think they ever say that in the game, so I didn't actually know that, but they basically look like if Squidward was obese. And that's exactly what they look like.
Wow.
Yeah. And then if you all you need to know about them is that you can bounce on their heads, and they are bouncy. And if you save them, they say, "Thanks a bundle," and they don't do anything else for you, ever. That is, save them from the mud, the evil toxic sludge mud. If you talk to them, they say, "Thanks a bundle," like 1,000,001 times. And if you spray them with water, they say,
That's actually about exactly what they say.
Yeah. So those are the Delfino people. And you arrive to Isle Delfino on a plane with Peach. And we arrive on the dock, and we meet a paint version of Mario that's holding a paintbrush, like a torch-style paintbrush. Mm-hmm. And Peach goes, "Yo, what the hell? You're here. How is he over there?"
That's exactly what she says.
And then you chase him, and he runs to the center of town, and he paints an M on a statue in the center of town and jumps inside of it. And you say, "Oh my God, where'd he go?" And then you follow him into the painting. And that's how the game starts.
Yeah, it's wild. And you mentioned sludge at one point. So that's what's happening, is that we have this person who we end up learning is named Shadow Mario. And Shadow Mario is basically going around writing these, graffiti things everywhere, and he's writing M's. And so upon arriving, you are asked to basically you're arrested. Mario is arrested, and not for tax fraud this time, but he's arrested for defacing the property of the island. His sentence is to clean up his mess, which again he never did that. It was in fact Shadow Mario who took this once pristine island. Maybe let's make pristine the word of the day. And so he goes all over the place, and that's when we have his trusty partner Flood. It's a powerful water cannon, and it's a backpack made by, and I love this, Professor E. Gadd.
Who also made the Poltergust 3000, yes.
Yes, who also made, I believe, the paintbrush that Shadow Mario is carrying. So there you have it. But the graffiti is on the airstrip, and again, exactly right. We chase Shadow Mario, and that's when we're eventually kind of cut loose in Delfino Plaza, which is the, what do you call that? The home world of this game.
Yeah, the home world. Yeah. It's like the hub world.
Yeah.
Did I put the cart before the horse on that? Did I say did I miss the entire part where we go to jail?
I think you did, and that's okay.
I think in my brain that cutscene is like doesn't exist, but you're right. So then we do the Mario chase thing.
Yeah, that's the catalyst moment, right? Is whenever he's arrested, because that's the only reason we get Flood.
That's true.
So even though it's incredibly forgettable in the grand scheme of the game, it does happen. It's like less than 15 seconds. It's less than 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's like a PowerPoint slide type deal. It just shows 4 shots and then you're out of there. I remember now.
I think the judge goes, and then and then you're,
Yep.
As with the American court system, more or less. So Shadow Mario kidnaps Princess Peach, but Mario stops him just in time. So that's a reoccurring event in the game whenever Shadow Mario shows up and tries to create chaos and put sludge everywhere. And it's very blatant that he has heavily infected all of the levels off of the plot, which there are many levels throughout this game, which we can certainly talk about. Do you want to wrap up the rest of the plot, the rest of the story, and then we can talk some levels? So basically, it's reoccurring that Shadow Mario is trying to kidnap and run off with Princess Peach. And he, again, is wreaking havoc in different parts of Isle Delfino in the plaza and the other levels, which we will get to shortly.
Right. So I think at some point in the early game, Peach is standing in the plaza, and then Paint Mario takes her. Right?
That's correct.
He takes her from the plaza. So as you get a certain amount of shine sprites, the story advances, and the next area that you're allowed to go to is... Oh, no, we're not doing areas, sorry. We're doing main story. So you find out eventually who Paint Mario is when you defeat Mecha Bowser in the middle of the game in an amusement park, which is a very fun, like, Rails-style level. You defeat him. And then you find out it's Baby Bowser. Bowser Jr.
I mean...
Not Baby Bowser.
I mean, they're kind of a baby who's...
like adolescent Bowser.
Who's obsessed because Baby Bowser's like, you're my mother, which is like, oh, okay.
Right. It's like, don't touch my mama. And you're like, I am uncomfortable.
You got some splaining to do.
So, Baby Bowser runs away, and you don't really encounter him until later. When is the next time we encounter Bowser Jr.? Sorry, I keep saying Baby Bowser because I just love the way it sounds.
It's kind of interchangeable. Baby Bowser comes back eventually and, again, says that Peach is his mother. I love the fact that Bowser admits to his son at one point that Peach is not actually his mother. It's just kind of silly and kind of feels obvious, but I don't know.
Right, it's uncomfortable. I think it's just like a weird thing where we're in Bowser Jr.'s like timeline. I don't think I've ever seen him say something like that in any of the other games where he calls Peach his mama. Kind of a weird ad end. Like they never say Mario and Peach are dating, but everyone like assumes that like they're like a couple, you know.
It's a little strange.
Right. It's a little strange that it's so explicit. Like she's my mama. Very strange.
Yeah.
And like that was the driving force of the plot. And don't get me wrong, like Mario games are not really known for their deep plot, you know. It's the gameplay with like a story alongside it, like what's my motive kind of deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, from Delfino Plaza, there are a number of levels that we get to experience and interact with.
Hub worlds, like different portals to different places on the island.
Correct. So it's not like in Super Mario 64 whenever you're on top of a snowy mountain or then you're like, you know, in the bottom of the ocean or you're not. You are visiting places that are unique to Isle Delfino. Thank you for catching me there.
Right.
So we've got Bianco Hills, Rico Harbor, Gelato Beach, Pina or Pina Park, I don't know, Serena.
I think it's Pina Park.
And then there's Serena Beach. I don't know how to pronounce some of these because there are a lot of games that I play by Nintendo that I never really get a clear idea as how to say it.
I thought it was Serena, but...
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
And we've got Noki Bay, Pianta Village, and then, of course, Corona Mountain at the end.
Corona Mountain.
And obviously Delfino Plaza itself. And we can't forget the Delfino Airstrip, which we spend very little time on in the course.
Right, in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of great games. There's plenty of shine sprites to collect. I think there's about 11 per level, with the exception of Delfino Plaza, which has 40. Corona Mountain, which only has 1. The Airstrip has 2. And then there's a number of blue coins to collect, which you can cash in for more shine sprites. So I believe they followed the same model of 120 shine sprites, not stars this time, obviously.
Right. It's 120.
Yeah.
And it's the game is as short. So in terms of like story, we'll talk about length. You can finish this game, like only get the first 4 or 5 shine sprites in each like base world. What's the minimum that you have to get to make the sprite shine in the center of town? Is it 50?
I think it's 60 actually.
Okay, so 60 is really not that many when you think about it. If you do all the worlds, maybe, and for the first 3 like hub worlds, maybe 4, or like little teleport
they're not so
levels.
bad.
They're really not so bad to finish even all 11 of them. They're really not that bad. The later levels are very difficult. So I'd say like 12 to 15 hours of gameplay
And
for bare minimum.
And we were talking
For 100%, it's a lot of thinking. So it might take you longer.
Absolutely. And Vince, you were saying something that I believe before we were recording that I can't help mention, and that's that this game is a general crescendo of difficulty. So it begins, word of the day, maybe, I don't know.
Crescendo.
Right?
Words with Ben.
Throwing in
Crescendo. To grow.
It starts off in a relatively easy sort of format, but it really ramps up. It really ramps up in difficulty as the game goes. So those are the levels, more or less. There are plenty of shine sprites and activities and things to do. However, because there's graffiti and pollution everywhere, the goal is to clean that up ultimately. And with each challenge that you do, you clean up the island more, which leads me to believe that Al Gore probably loved this game, or probably still loves this game, because why not clean the planet, make this place a little bit better?
Bush Gore.
Bush Gore, good God.
Bush Gore, could you imagine?
Hashtag never forget. This game, the levels, it's worth mentioning and intertwining that between the levels and what actually happens in the game, that it follows a very similar format to what we experience in Super Mario 64, where you have to do things in a pretty straightforward way. But they did bring back the collecting 100 coins, though you can only do that in specific variants of the levels. Collecting 100 coins will, of course, give you a shine sprite.
Right.
And there's a couple of secret ones as well.
Right. So that's like all the different ways that you can obtain your shine sprites and kind of advance in the game. It's a very basic, like Ben was saying, it's a very basic formula for the game. Like the paintings are essentially now just turned into paint portals from 64 to Sunshine. There's like a 1 to 8 secret items, which are the blue coins. You have your regular coins, you have 1-ups, and that's it. And you just have to get the shine sprite at the end of each level. And there's not really much that the characters say to you. Some characters will throw you, or like they're
the
like
chucksters.
In terms of level design, we'll get to that. Right, the chucksters.
The chucksters.
But all in all, it's a very basic, tried and true. Well, basic we know now because there have been a lot more Mario platformers. But like they knew what worked, or Mario, I should say Mario platformers. But they knew what worked, and they did it. And they just did it again.
Absolutely. And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked just fine.
So.
However, in this game, in addition to the, quote, usual suspects of collectibles, we also have different nozzles for Flood that do different things.
Right. You have your regular nozzle, which is just your squirty squirt. You can hold down R to squirt your squirt and stand in place. And you can like aim it around.
Keep saying squirt.
And the controls are inverted, and there's no option to uninvert them. And I really hate that.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
And then you have the dual. It's a lot. You have the dual nozzles, which that you hover, also called the hover nozzle. So aptly named. You can hover from pretty much any height, which kind of like defies all laws of physics, but sure. It stays in one stream and it propels you from any height, so you can use it on really high places to like levitate basically to other level platforms for about, I would say, like 3 to 4 seconds. Nothing crazy. You have the jet nozzle, which jets you across water. You have the rocket nozzle, which rockets you fucking high as hell. And there's one more I'm missing. Which one am I missing?
I don't think you're missing any of them, but I believe that the jet nozzle that you're referring to, I think its Christian name is the turbo nozzle. I think so.
I always call it the jet nozzle because it looks like a jet.
And it feels like a jet, so that's just me trying to,
cross your T's, dot your I's.
I don't know.
The spirit was there, though.
Recognizing,
you got to give me that.
Recognizing its baptismal name. However, with all of these devices, we recognize that Flood is basically a multifunctional super soaker. But that means that you need water, which you do constantly have to refill throughout the entirety of this game.
Right, you find a body of water, you go down to it, you swim in it, and you hold R and it fills your thing. It fills Flood. And then you get to use Flood for much more than I recalled when I played it as a kid. Flood lasts pretty long.
Oh, yeah.
I never really found myself not being able to beat something because I didn't have enough water. If I ran out of water, it was usually like my own fault because I just wasn't playing it efficiently.
Oh, yeah. There's some challenges that do use a lot of it, but I think you're right. You can also reload your water whenever you pick up one of your new nozzles, but you can only have 2 nozzles at a time, which are the spray. Generally, you're started with the hover, but you have to always trade out the hover if you want rocket or turbo.
Right, so you always have the single squirt, and if you want to use one of the special nozzles, you don't get hover anymore. So, which makes some puzzles much more difficult if you're not using the double nozzle and only have like the rocket nozzle or the jet nozzle and can't get rid of it,
It's worth noting that you attack with the spray nozzle. You can attack with the hover nozzle as well, technically. You can clean up pollution and attack some of those more gelatinous enemies. But those aren't the only attacks you're limited to. You are also you also have access to some of the more traditional Mario fare in terms of how he can defeat enemies.
Right. The like flood becomes a really integral part of combat. You can squirt enemies to stun them. You can flip enemies over using flood. You can like backflip and then hover to like jump onto an enemy's head. And this is where the very sensitive control stick really shines, because you can do a lot of very high flying maneuvers with flood to help you in combat while also being offensive. And I think it's a nice balance.
It is, and they really make you work, and they really make you push your coordination to the limits, because exactly what you're saying, you can do some really impressive maneuvering because of how sensitive the hover nozzles and some of the other nozzles are, but at the same time, goodness gracious, if you miss something by a millimeter, the game makes sure that you know that you missed it by a millimeter.
Right. It really does, especially with flood.
Absolutely.
Like to clear those mud. So a lot of the enemies in this game are made of mud, aptly so, because you squirt water at them. So like the mud piranha plants that stop you from going to each world that you have to defeat, for some reason were just so difficult, because you had to turn around and position yourself exactly right to squirt into their open mouth.
Yes. Oh, it was a pain.
Nintendo said squirt in their open mouth. Rated E for everyone.
That's the quote of the year right there. Squirt right into their mouth.
So, yeah. So some very, very specific scenarios, which is that one, one that I can think of off the top of my head, but there are many more. Make flood like a really powerful tool, but also a really sensitive and difficult tool to use. Much more difficult than the Poltergust 3000 in Luigi's Mansion.
But of course, because you're on vacation, you don't fight your typical Goombas, nor do you fight your typical piranha plants, but you fight other little insectoid creatures, and obviously the enemies that are made of mud, which you've mentioned earlier. But for the more...
the goopy boys.
What's that?
The goopy boys.
Big goopy boys, I think is what they were called, technically. So for the more tangible, and I say tangible kind of loosely here, guys, everyone relax. For the more hard, real enemies that you have to combat, you can still jump on their heads, you can still ground pound. Diving is a lot more fun in this game, I find, even though you don't attack with the dive. I think it's a lot of fun, because if you spray the ground in front of you and dive and slide...
Right, you get that really fast slide animation that will take you very far.
Oh, it's absurd and completely unrealistic, but I love it.
Yes.
It's also worth mentioning that at a certain point in the game, whenever you're at Pinna Park, potato, downtown Dantan, that eventually you can unlock Yoshi and use Yoshi in the game.
Right.
Yoshi requires specific fruit and vomits to attack.
Yep. Rated E for everyone.
It's... Yeah, I guess that's okay, because I didn't know that would be acceptable. Anyhow, Yoshi gives you a little bit more of a float, but to be honest, in most scenarios, if you don't need Yoshi, just use your hover nozzle. It's easier, because Yoshi is a bitch to navigate. I don't know how many issues you had with Yoshi playing through this, or with your most recent playthrough that we just did. If you had some angry reactions, I know I had many angry reactions to Yoshi this time through that I didn't in the first playthrough.
The Yoshi gameplay in this game is difficult because of the momentum, and Yoshi's supposed to be a more slippery character anyway. It makes it really difficult to play as Yoshi in this game.
Truly.
It's satisfying when you get it right. Like, Yoshi's basically invincible to most enemies. He can just eat stuff. He can jump over most goop. Like, he can jump to higher platforms, obviously, because of his double jump. But Yoshi's just a difficult character overall to play in this game. And luckily, Yoshi, like, you get him in the last half of the game. So it's not like it's an integral part of the game. But it's still difficult nonetheless. That's a big part of the gameplay.
And Yoshi will ask for different fruits from within the egg.
Yes.
So that's interesting. And there are certain fruits that you can carry. You can carry bananas, you can carry melons, you can carry pineapples, but you can't carry durian. So you have to kick durian to Yoshi. And there are some missions where the only thing that Yoshi wants is durian, which is a pain in the neck,
right,
to be honest. There is one other rideable character that we're missing out on, and those are the bloopers. And
Oh my God.
we use the bloopers in blooper races, which I think mainly happen at Rico Harbor, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
Rico Harbor.
And they're owned by a Pianta named Big Daddy. So
Big Daddy, you race the blooper, and if you get around the loop in like a minute, I think it's less than a minute, you get a shine sprite. It's a lot of fun. It's a really, really fun one. And trying to get the lowest time is quite a blast. It's a good time.
It is, and there are 3 different kinds of bloopers you can ride. There's the green ones, which are slower and easier to handle. There's the yellow ones, which are balanced for the most part. And then there's the red ones, which are hard to handle, but are very fast. The most memorable line from Big Daddy in this game is "Homina Wamama," which I actually have tattooed on my right bicep. So I always remember Big Daddy as I play through this game. And through my life.
I'm never gonna forget that.
I know you won't, and I'm probably...
You guys can't see, but Ben really does have Big Daddy tattooed on the inside of his left bicep. It's really incredible.
With the quote.
It's the best stick and poke I've ever seen.
Thank you. It was...
You're welcome, buddy.
It was painful, to say the least. There are some NPCs that are kind of worth mentioning.
Toad is in this game.
Toad's
in every Mario game.
Toadsworth. We've obviously got our Piantas, but we've got like the hotel manager at one of the levels is an NPC, as is the mayor, the raccoon.
Yeah, the hotel manager in Serena Beach.
Yes, which is my favorite level, but we can talk about.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun.
It's sick. Anyway, sorry. And it's the part of me that loves Majora's Mask that loves that place. The raccoons are who you take your blue coins to. They notably look like Tanuki, so that's kind of
right.
A little bit of a nod there, I think. But for every 10 coins you give them, they give you a shine sprite, as previously mentioned. There's also the park director, who is an elder Noki. But then there's the Noki elder, who you find at Noki Bay, of course. Other NPCs include Sandbird. I'll just look up Sandbird for your own health. Il Piantissimo, who you end up racing in some of the levels. You've got the sunflowers, who are adorable, and then you've got butterflies and birds, which, of course, Nintendo being throwing no bones as they do, will hide shine sprites, blue coins, and regular coins within the animals that you think are just part of the background.
Why is the sandbird listed as an NPC?
I really don't know. I mean, technically you don't play them, but I thought the sandbird was more of like some sort of psychic...
The sandbird's like a boss. It's like a boss level.
Kind of, but like you just ride this psychic fusion amalgamate sand thing that's covered with red coins. Who put them
It's pretty majestic.
Who put those coins there?
Right. So, you got your NPCs. It's also worth noting that some levels, most of the secret levels, with the harder platforming, FLUDD gets taken away from you, and the same music plays every time, and it can be PTSD-inducing, and the sad part is that it's good music. And I wish that I didn't have to listen to the first 15 seconds of it so many times, but the levels are doable without FLUDD, and they are difficult and some of the most satisfying levels to finally beat. I really liked a lot of them.
In each of the levels, Bianco Hills, Rico Harbor, Gelato Beach, etc., in these levels, they have these platforming levels that are usually in the titles that involve the word secret. So like in Bianco Hills, it's the Hillside Secret. In Rico Harbor, it's the Secret of Rico Tower. Gelato Beach, it's Dune Bud Sandcastle Secret. And so you have to make it through the platforms. There's no time limit. Your sanity has a time limit, but you have no time limit. They're great levels. They're very challenging. And later you end up having to, with the use of FLUDD, you have FLUDD taken away from you when you go to them the first time. When you go back to them later to do the Red Coin Challenge, you are left with FLUDD, but they are timed. And you have a limited amount of water.
Right. And those are some of the hardest levels to beat. They're just very difficult. You can't really mess up. You can't really fall. You can do like 1 or 2 mess ups, but the time is pretty crunchy. And what else are we thinking in terms of levels? Do you want to start with... We could just go through each world like each and talk about our favorite levels in each world, if that's cool with you.
That's great. So
Because we got through our gameplay. But by the way, just as a disclaimer, most of the basic Mario gameplay elements are also in this game. Backflip, spin jump, ground pound. Like Ben touched on the ground pound thing, but you can basically do almost all of the basic Mario 3D platformer things that have been implemented since Mario 64. So
absolutely,
just putting that in there.
Absolutely. So speaking of those secret levels that live within the main levels, let's go down the list here. Let's talk about Bianco Hills, Rico Harbor, and what your favorite challenge was in each of these. What spoke to you in Bianco Hills, Vince?
What spoke to me in Bianco Hills, I think it's a great place to start. This level is one of the more pretty levels in the game. Mm-hmm. Like where you start out and you're going through that little village and town. It's like very cute. I liked this level. I liked a lot of the like mini levels in this area. Mm-hmm. But I think I really, in all of these, I really didn't like any of the red coin levels. I just think they hurt my brain and they're really tedious. And I would have rather seen more like bigger bosses and not really sticking to that part of the Mario 64 formula. The PD Piranha level where he flies around and you have to squirt him with water and he falls down and then you have to like jump on his little belly button, but it's like out in the open. That's my favorite in this. It's called Down with PD Piranha.
Nice.
Wait. No, it's not. It's called PD Piranha Strikes Back. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
Episode 5.
That's the other one, because you do fight PD Piranha twice here.
Twice.
And let me just say this about that. There are red coin challenges that are not timed that are in the main land, and are in the main place. But whenever you do the secret challenges, they have red coin challenges as well. Those I like. The other ones that you're talking about, Vince, I understand entirely. So to that end, in Bianco Hills, more or less my favorite was probably the Hillside Cave Secret. I just love these levels.
Yes, I agree. I can't agree with you enough more.
Let's
Oh, sorry. Let's.
No,
let's.
I was just going to pivot to Rico Harbor.
Let's pivot to Rico Harbor. Let's do it.
Let's pivot to Rico Harbor, where we have a wide variety of levels in this more horizontally. Well, I mean, there are still some pretty vertical challenges, but it's a little bit more sprawling, I feel, in some ways. But
yeah.
And it's also worth mentioning that there is a Shadow Mario level in each of these as well.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
yes.
It's worth mentioning that, and that you have to chase him, and that he's a pain in the neck, and that after doing all of those, that's whenever you can actually get to the end of the game. So I will say that my least favorite is Yoshi's Fruit Adventure. It breaks my spirit, it's difficult, and it's the one where you have to get Yoshi a durian, and no other fruit will do. But I do love the blooper races. Blooper Surfing sequel is my favorite, actually.
It's the purple Yoshi level, right? In this one,
I think it's the orange Yoshi.
Okay, I believe you.
Wait, no, I think you're right. I think it is purple.
I think it might be the purple.
Well, you have to, whenever you're getting fruit for Yoshi in this level, you have to pound the buttons on the alternating towers. And so getting a durian is a crapshoot in and of itself. So first of all, you have to be patient, get the right fruit, and then you have to get it to Yoshi fast enough. Remember?
Right.
Right. Horrible.
I do remember that.
Yeah, it's a bad time. And I'd like to interject, if it's okay, Vince, that I think it's important that we intertwine some of the musical elements in this game, and I'll tell you why, because there's something between these levels that is worth mentioning. So, quick side note, the music is another lesson in theme and variations by Koji Kondo, but he's joined by Shinobu Tanaka. Kondo composed the music and Kondo composed the main motif for Isle Delfino, Bianco Hills, Rico Harbor, and Gelato Beach. Gelato Beach is the next level we'll talk about as soon as we're done talking about Rico Harbor. But if you listen to the music, you can hear the main theme of Isle Delfino in all of these levels. The rest of the levels were by Shinobu Tanaka, which is why the main theme of the game goes away.
Oh, no way.
Mm-hmm.
As a motif?
Mm-hmm. That's why we have that verdant little, the main theme, da, 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 in Bianco Hills. That's why we have that. That's why in Rico Harbor, it's a little bit more of a horn line. It sounds kind of industrial, and that's why Gelato Beach sounds very steel drum.
Metal, yeah, the steel drums, yeah.
And then it's a very European gypsy jazz sort of feel in Delfino Plaza. But those are all Koji Kondo, who's doing his theme and variations thing. And then everything else is off on its own sort of tangent. But it's still good music all the same. So I just wanted to interject.
Yeah, it's still good music.
It's worth contemplating as we discuss this. So, yeah, there you have it. Do you have a favorite or least favorite in Rico Harbor? I'm taking it that Yoshi's Fruit Adventure was not pleasurable for you.
No, Yoshi's Fruit Adventure, the fruit thing. Didn't like that. I really like Gooper Blooper Returns. I think Gooper Blooper, like the main bosses of each of these levels are very funny to me.
Yes.
So the Petey Piranha in Bianco Hills, and then Gooper Blooper in this one, and then we'll talk about the next one. But
it's really enjoyable.
They make me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just like good Mario levels, and you kind of beat a boss very straightforward. I did the other ones, and I appreciate the difficulty, but like it was the platforming where I'd have to do things over that I really thought I wouldn't have to do, kind of deal. So,
And it's worth mentioning, going backwards, just another quick step here, that Bianco Hills is a lush community of villas, the lower part of Corona Mountain. It's got windmills. It's just very beautiful and gentle, and the music reflects that. Rico Harbor is industrial. It's kind of a port city. It's got a fish market, which, just comes with the territory. But then we have Gelato Beach, which is the largest beach sprawl of the whole island. It's under perfect blue skies. Have a swim. Enjoy a famous smoothie. What is a famous smoothie, for God's sake? And bask.
Are you reading off the wiki right now?
Yeah, that's why I read it the way I did. And bask in the glow of the Shine Tower. What did you like? What did you dislike?
The mirror levels are good. They're clever. I like them. What else is in here? The Sandcastle Secret. This is where we get the sandboxes. What else happens? The red coins in the coral reef was actually really cool. Mm-hmm. Because being able to go to the coral reef was really cool. I liked that, actually. I think this is one where it's either between that or the sandbird. Mm-hmm. With the big honking bird, who's also an NPC apparently.
I would agree. I hate, and I don't know why, Wiggler Ahoy full steam ahead drives me insane.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, and I don't mean fighting Wiggler. I just mean like, I remember the first time that I landed in that level and the music started playing for Wiggler, and I looked up this giant caterpillar storming all over the place, and I was like, nah, I'm just exiting area. I don't want to do this right now.
Right. I've done that a couple times where, in the later levels, especially when you see a lot of the platforming and like very low tolerance for mistakes kind of deal, it made me want to be like, yeah, exit area I'm just going to go eat dinner.
Right.
I don't want to do this right now.
Exactly.
Now,
Il Piantissimo, I love racing him, and the sand sprint in this level was very enjoyable because you kind of feel like you're getting away with a secret whenever you pull it off the right way. So I really rather enjoy that. Yeah. Now, something else to throw in as we look at the levels, and we encourage you, if you've not played this game, to give it a go. It's very creative. It's a step in a new and beautiful direction for the Mario franchise. Something else worth noting, though, is that from levels, you can see other levels. You can see different courses from the course you're currently in.
Right.
So as we're about to talk about Pina or Pinup Park, I'm noticing in the background of the art that there's Rico Harbor.
Yes. And you can see Pinup Park all the time from Delfino Plaza, and you can see the volcano as well. Like for when this game was released, like the continuity that they tried to put into it, the little details make it really special. It's like you said, Nintendo games, like, they can't just release a patch update that will fix those things. Like, they have to be built in, and those little details didn't really slip their fingers. Like, it's a very, like, the world feels populated, it feels nice, it feels like very meticulously done. I like that very much about it.
Absolutely. So. And I mean, for Nintendo, I mean, one wrong move, I mean, their reputation is gigantic because they've only existed since 1889. Not as a video game company, but they have existed that long. So,
speaking of 1889, let's talk about Pinna Park.
Let's talk about Pinna Park, which has been here since 2002, probably.
Right. So Pinna Park is where you encounter Mecha Bowser. This is, I would say, like the halfway point of the game.
Yeah.
You encounter like the first level of Pinna Park is Mecha Bowser appears, and that's when you fight Mecha Bowser. You get these little flood rockets. I think this is actually my favorite one, besides the runaway Ferris wheel. I think that one's also a lot of fun.
Oh, it's so fun.
Right, it is fun. You fight Mecha Bowser, and you get like little flood rockets, and you just have to shoot the rockets at Mecha Bowser. And there's bullet bills that chase you, and you can squirt the bullet bills and destroy them. But you destroy Mecha Bowser, and then this is where Bowser Jr. runs away with his little Mecha Bowser head hot air balloon. So that's that.
It's worth bringing up that Pinna Park has two different styles to it. You either have beach challenges, which you do outside of the entrance, or you have challenges that happen within the park itself. And it's an amusement park, as previously mentioned, and it boasts everything from a roller coaster to clam cups. Doesn't that sound nice? The view from the Ferris wheel is magnificent. Lots of great levels here. Runaway Ferris wheel is great. I don't want to copy you here, but the level where we're roller coaster balloons is actually, no, that's probably my favorite one. So as much as I like Mecha Bowser, I do like the roller coaster balloons.
Okay.
Yeah.
The red coin level in this was awful.
Oh, it was a bear. And getting done with it, I will say my satisfaction to frustration ratios were very close. It was like 51-49. But I digress. It's a good level all the same, and it's in this game you can go between different levels in different orders, but some of them are not able to be unlocked until certain points. But Vince, I would say that the Mecha Bowser fight, it really does feel like the halfway point in this game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and coincidentally enough, it is. There's 4 other worlds after this. I mean, one of them is only the final boss fight, but the next 3 worlds feel like 4 worlds because the difficulty scales the difficulty scale is much greater after this point. So we go to Serena Beach, and let's talk a little bit about Serena Beach. It's it's also a part of Isle Delfino, like another beach, just like the first beach that we encountered, which name eludes me. Whose name eludes me?
Bianco Hills.
Bianco Hills, that's right. Well, no, that's not a beach technically.
Oh, no, it's not a beach level. You're talking about Gelato Beach.
Yeah, Gelato Beach. Thank you, Gelato Beach. So this is a haunted beach. This is the Boo world of this game. And this is like a really clever implementation of it. It still doesn't feel like super gruesome like a normal Boo world would feel like. It feels like it's like a sepia tone to it, to the whole thing.
The sun is setting.
Yeah, kind of deal. And it's like the sun is setting on the beach and the ghosts are coming out. That's like the vibe. So each one of these levels is themed that way. I think the Mysterious Hotel Delfino is my favorite in this one.
Oh, which
is the 4th level or 3rd level.
There's so many good levels in this. And yeah, you're exactly right. That ramping up of difficulty is these are my favorite levels. These last 3 are my favorite. And so I think I should say these courses rather are my 3 favorite. And I think it's because of the difficulty. The Manta Storm. How did you feel about the Manta Storm there, Vince?
Dude, that threw me. The Manta Storm. Like, okay, so for the Manta Storm, if anyone didn't get this far or what it is, a giant manta ray that spreads a trail of like the goopy paint behind it is basically swimming straight toward Serena Beach. And it's a ghost manta ray, so it hovers over the land and spreads paint all over. And you have to spray the paint, and if you spray the stingray, it turns into 2. Or if you spray the ray, it turns into 2. And then subsequently that 1 turns into 2, and then so on and so forth until you have all these little manta rays running around that do 1 slot of damage to you, no matter what size they are.
Yeah, it's a doozy, and it's the opening challenge of this level. It'll really do a number on you. But no, this is my favorite. I'm thinking that they went with Serena, whatever you want to call it, because it's literally the word siren. So I'm thinking that that's sort of the nautical bend there, like a siren calling one to their nautical demise. I would have to say, I think his Mysterious Hotel Delfino is actually my favorite too in this one. I don't know if I have a least favorite, to be honest with you.
No, even the red coin levels in this are not that bad. The Shadow Mario level in this is fun. Yeah. This is a good one.
It is.
And the music in this one is not, like, I didn't really notice any demonstrable change in quality from the music in the earlier worlds. Like, this game has really good music. This is one of them where it's, like, a little on the spookier side, but it's still, like, pretty upbeat, joyful, good to put on in the background for something.
The hotel itself is. The beach, on the other hand, has that strange chromatic sounding, like, rise and fall synth string sort of sound, and I love it. I live for it.
Yes.
The lobby's cute.
The lobby is cute. I think I was thinking of the lobby, but you're right, the beach when you first arrive.
It's very...
Yeah, it's like eerily happy.
Yeah, it's a good tune. So what do we have after Serena? You say Serena?
Noki Bay. We are at Noki Bay. This is one of the 2 races that live in Delfino. I'm assuming this is where the Nokis live, based on the Noki Bay. And Noki Bay is their version of like a jungle. In I would say like the closest version to a jungle level that you could get to. I think. Or is that Pianta Village? I would say Pianta Village,
my dear friend.
I'm confusing them. You're right. Noki
good.
Bay is not that. But still another island themed level. Care to talk about the music, Ben?
Of Noki Bay?
Mm-hmm.
It's Lydian in nature, which is a nerdy way. Well, no, there's no... I mean, I'm going to try to put this into layman's terms, and it's not going to work. Basically, there's this constant rising, which is very curious sounding. It kind of deceives you, makes you feel like you're in one key, and then they take you another direction. It's a very, very vertical level, going to the depths of the ocean, of the bay, I guess, and all the way to the top of these magnificent spires and mountainous regions. Steep cliffs and seabeds are what the Nokis call home. The huge waterfall and 3 soaring towers resonate with mystic history.
Mystic mystery.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is not my favorite one of the levels. I don't like platformers, like high platformers with water at the bottom.
Fair.
It frustrates me. But still, like, I would say there is enough of a challenge where this level feels rewarding after you beat it. And I don't think I got all the shine sprites from this one. I think this is the one where I was like,
yeah,
no.
Every Mario game has one of those that you just go, maybe not this one.
Right.
This one, it's grown on me a lot, though. Victoria begrudgingly played through Ely Mouth's Dentist. She did a fine job with it, but she's just like, ugh. Because if there's one place where Mario's controls are actually the worst, it's Mario underwater. He is extremely difficult to maneuver and to manipulate when he is in the water with his helmet on and otherwise. It's nice that he has the hover nozzle to help him navigate and move, but it's still difficult. So I think by proximity, I don't like Ely Mouth's Dentist. I love Il Piantissimo's Surf Swim because, yeah, right. The Surf Swim was kind of comically easy because I think I just started flying across the platforms instead of running on them using the hover nozzle, and I got to the red coin and turned around, and he was still a ways away. So it was kind of silly. But yeah, no, this one, I didn't like it the first time. I like it more this time. Music's very, very curious here. And it's, yeah. I realize that we jumped over the music of Peanut Park. So let me just say, it kind of has a ragtime, fun little Americana sound to it. And again, you should play this game and give it a listen for yourself. After Noki Bay, unless you have more to say on Noki Bay, which sounds like something Jar Jar Binks would say, for goodness sake.
Right. I actually hate the name of it.
I know.
Even the name itself.
I know. After that, we have the Pianta Village, which is where the Piantas live, at least for the most part.
Right.
I really enjoy Pianta Village and the chaos that ensues.
You know what's interesting is that a lot of the Piantas live in Pianta Village. And I didn't actually, put two and two together that they were Piantas and that they lived in Pianta Village. I just call them, the Delfino people, because the Nokis are never, they're not anywhere else. They're only in Noki Bay.
There are some in Peanut Park. There are some.
Oh, yeah, there are some. But, that's where you first see them, and you're like, who are these people? But you hadn't seen them until then.
And they're in...
And the Piantas get their own village and Delfino Plaza, and I thought that's interesting, so...
There are some Piantas...
That's my aside.
Oh, no, you're fine. There are some Piantas in Gelato... Or Piantas, list. There are some Noki in Gelato Beach, but they're just more forgettable than the Piantas overall.
Oh, no, you're right. There is one in, that first gazebo.
And...
When you get to Gelato Beach.
Yeah, it's curious, but Pianta Village is just Piantas, and Noki Bay is just Noki territory. Pianta Village, the ancestral home of the Piantas, was built in a giant tree as protection against wild beasts. Giant mushrooms thrive beneath the village, which, for all intents and purposes, is going to rot that tree right out from under them, and it's going to be a terrible time.
Right. What idiots. In 100 to 200 years,
fools.
They'll regret what they did.
Fools. What was your favorite level in Pianta Village?
What was my favorite level? I liked that this was a chain chomp level. I liked that.
You better leave that.
I think that was neat. The Fluff Festival coin hunt. Let's talk about the Fluff Festival coin hunt, because you get all the way past Il Piantissimo again, where you're not racing him on the beach this time. You're racing him on a climb. You get past that hard stuff. Then you get to the Fluff Festival. And that's something. And I liked that one because it was so frustrating to play.
Now, you mean that you like it sincerely, not that you actually dislike it. It was a good challenge.
No, I liked it sincerely because I thought it was a good challenge. It was so frustrating, but that was one of the ones, I keep using that word. That was one of the instances where I really think the difficulty was fair and warranted.
I would agree. In Pianta Village, obviously there's the Chain Chomp, and I didn't mind. I didn't really dislike any of the levels. The Goopy Inferno is probably the most difficult and the one I disliked the most. But the Secret of the Village Underside is probably my favorite because I just love the secret levels. It is what it is. That's just the kind of person I am in these games.
So overall, the story is, like we said, pretty scattered about the 8 main levels. And this game is not so terribly long, so we actually have reached our final boss. And we, again, like we said in the beginning of or more toward the beginning of the podcast, that you encounter Bowser Jr. and Bowser. And as with most Bowser levels at the end of Mario games, you go through a series of stages in the Mario level. So there's 3 total transformations in this Bowser stage. The first one is a lava pool with scattered platforms. The second one is spikes that come and move in and out of the platforms, or fire that you have to spray with flood. And then you just do the classic thing where you either flip Bowser on his back or pull his tail and then he's out of here. He's skadoodle. Bye. So long.
So long, Bowser.
Yeah, can we say so long, gay Bowser?
I mean, that's a great question because apparently they.
I don't think it's technically offensive to anyone.
No, and I know that it existed in the past games. Basically, if you don't know this about Mario, there was. I guess it started with Super Mario 64.
Yeah, might want to give some context. Yeah,
it started with Super Mario 64, where he goes, "So long, Bowser," and he does like a little schwa at the end of "longer" because they're trying to, kind of.
They're trying to make him sound Italian.
Play with the accentuation on the penultimate syllable, right? The da 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 da. You know what I mean? So they go, "So long, gay Bowser," and so for years everyone went, "Wait, what? So long, gay Bowser?" And
it's one of the cornerstones of like the meme community, I guess.
I was going to say it's a hard meme culture world, or a
Yeah.
hard meme culture reference. So, in terms of a boss fight, I thought it was relatively fair. He's difficult, but not as difficult as, I don't know, Gulp from Spyro to Ripto's Rage. Because that wasn't even a fight. That was a mechanized demon.
No Bowsers are ever just bullet sponges. The boss progresses pretty well. Mm-hmm. The difficulty progresses with it, but Nintendo does that really well. The gameplay, the boss progressions, it's all really good. So
yeah, I think it's
the end of the game. So like you shatter like this last platform that Bowser falls through. The arena flips over, he falls into Delfino Plaza, and there's the final cutscene, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and
game's over.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I will admit Victoria and I are going to try and 100% this, even though we've played through it twice now, but we are going to go for it because she's never done it, and I certainly haven't, so a truly great game. And I was wondering, Vince, two questions that I thought we could kind of put a bow on this conversation with, which are, what could the game do better, and what does it have that other Marios can't touch?
I think the implementation, so like let's go for can't touch first. I think the implementation of Flood was brilliant, and the uses for Flood and the different level design specifically around Flood. Each level had something to do with Flood, even if it wasn't like spraying muck. It was weakening enemies. It was getting to places. It was always platforming with Flood. And that's, I think, this game's biggest strength, combined with the environment where there's a lot of water around. There's beaches, like lots of fountains that give you water. I think that's a perfect implementation of a water weapon that Nintendo did really well. The other section of that question, what do I think that they could do better? I think it was some of the more frustrating platforming aspects for me. The weird momentum changes, not at all akin to Super Mario 64. Some of the air momentum stuff, if you held forward too long in the air, you'd fly way too far. And it was not like an exact based stick momentum air system. But you get used to it after a while. Yeah. I just wish there was a way to change the sensitivity so that it wasn't so sensitive.
Agreed.
And that's pretty much everything I would change. Some of the aspects of the game were intentionally frustrating. I feel like the durians, mm-hmm. or some of the weird platforming glitches, like to try to make it more difficult. But to me, it just felt like it was slippery, like a little too slippery. Anyway, let's hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, well, I think what the game could do better, in all fairness, is kind of in the same realm of what you're saying, which is, like, let's say that Mario, on a scale of 1 to 10, let's talk about sensitivity of controls. Mario's movements are like a sensitivity at a level 9 out of 10. Like, he's very sensitive. That's not to say if you sneezed he would move, but that is to say that he moves very easily, and he doesn't just turn around. You actually have to like kind of walk him in a circle, which is its own sort of challenge. I would turn it from a 9 down to an 8 because I don't want him to be stiff or too easy to manipulate. that's what I would really change. I wouldn't change like the enemies. I mean, I'm looking at the enemies in this game, and they're all entertaining and difficult in a healthy way. I mean, from the pink boos, that's creative. The cheeps are around. We've got boos, bullet bills. I mean, we've got all these things. Oh, by the way, those little things in Peanut Park are apparently called Strollin' Stews. So
what the hell?
I'm just reviewing some of these names for my health, and they're
for your health and well-being.
For my health and well.
For your trivia nights at the bar.
Everyone, I need someone to care about my health and well-being. Sorry. So just a great variety of games. Wouldn't change that. But that's not to say. But that's not what I think that other Mario games can't touch. I didn't play Galaxy yet, as disclosed earlier. I have played Odyssey, and playing through this game and then playing Odyssey afterward was really, I kind of looked back, as a retrospective, right? I looked back at Sunshine, and there are elements of Sunshine that just even felt better than Odyssey to me. And I think that one of the things Odyssey did right was it took that companionship between you and Cappy, and like you need Cappy for a lot. But I feel like what you're saying is exactly right. Flood, you need Flood in some way, shape, or form at pretty much any point. There's a very, 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 very sturdy message to this game about bettering the planet and about taking care of the world around us. And I think that's a beautiful thing, which is why I jokingly and yet lovingly say that Al Gore probably loves this game, because it's, it's what it is. It's a wonderful game. And I think another thing that they did masterfully with this game is that they made the levels such that while all contained in this same island, they were so different enough that you didn't feel like you were playing the same thing over and over and over again. And
right.
And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if other Mario games have really mastered that the way that this game did.
Galaxy didn't do it very. Like, Galaxy had different levels from each one. Sorry, that was not very specific. Within each world, Galaxy had different levels that were just totally different from each other, usually. 64 did it with different things, and this followed the 64 formula very much, but it refined it much more. And it was much more satisfying to go through each level and see what was different in each one, and just take that time to explore. I did like that. So that's a big plus for this game as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm sitting here trying to figure out if Mario is a part of any union as a plumber, but I can't seem to find that yet.
They get great health benefits, actually.
Oh my God, they absolutely do.
It's him and Luigi. It's the Mario Brothers labor movement.
I'm trying to figure it out, but anytime I Google Mario Plumbers Union,
or what it would be like a number, right? It'd be like the Mario Brothers 419 or something like
UA
that.
Local 449 Steam Fitters,
Yeah.
Plumbers Union 27, and these are all kind of around the burg, as it were. But yeah, we'll figure out that sometime later in the future. But
did you just look at Pittsburgh unions?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We take our unions very seriously here.
Oh, we are a pro labor movement podcast.
We are.
Yes, we're pro. Yeah, we're pro labor.
Absolutely. We're pro labor of any sort, whether it's labor unions,
organized labor, going
into labor. We're pro it. It's okay.
Yes. Big yes. So yeah, that's Sunshine. It's a hell of a game. It's a great Mario platformer. It's one of those like awesome ways to just sit down and play a couple levels if you want to. You can play this game pretty separated out if you want to, or like all as one experience. It's up to you, but that's Sunshine.
And
we liked it. We liked it.
It's a blast. It's nostalgic in its own right. It's difficult in just the ways it needs to be. It's not an unfair game, but it involves a level of patience to really master and get down. But once you get it down, and once you trust yourself and get out of your own head, it's just wonderful, fits well under the hands. we would recommend it. I know that, Vince, you were jazzed to talk about this game, and so I was so glad to do this with you.
Yeah, I was super jazzed to talk about this game because this game was a huge part of my childhood, and I played this game quite a bit. I don't ever remember the platforming being as frustrating as I see it now.
Amen.
Maybe it's because I'm used to platformers that are like now modern day platformers that have a much tighter controls, but this does not. And I will come to like an agreement with Ben that the game kind of puts you in that adrenaline mode.
Yes.
To beat certain levels. And there are sometimes when that feels so satisfying, and there are other times when I don't want to be in adrenaline mode anymore. And when it required level after level after level, sometimes I had to put the game down. But that's modern day me, and I don't understand why that's modern day me, because me as a kid, I just played it all the way through. I just go one more time, let's go kind of deal. So
well, I just want to tack on to what you said there, and that's that older games, I feel, because of the lack of bone throwing, they throw you into that adrenaline drive because you don't have a bunch of chances. There's not much grace in these games. You really have to trust, go with the flow. It's kind of almost a Zen or Taoist practice playing through these games, trusting and not overthinking, because you can calculate till the cows come home, but it won't actually end up benefiting you the way that you would hope it would. So, if you want to hear us talk about Mario and the labor union to which he would probably belong, and whether that would be in the United States, Japan, or Italy, because he's a little bit of all of them, isn't he?
Right. Well, the with some level of European architecture included in there.
Absolutely. Let us know on any of our platforms.
And for the final time, that is Super Mario Sunshine. And that brings us to the end of our podcast. If you would like to contact us in any way, shape, or form, you are more than welcome to do so on many different sorts of media. Our Twitter at Pixel Project Radio, our Instagram at Pixel Project Pod. You can email us at pixelprojectradio@gmail.com. And I would like you to tell us, what do we want them to tell us?
Tell us anything that you want us to know about you and your love of video games and what they mean to you and what you'd like us to talk about, because we don't do this for ourselves. We do this for all of you.
Right. We sit in this comfort zone of playing games that we have already played or games that we already love, but we want to hear games that you love. And we've heard on Instagram stories a bunch of times. Not really so much activity on Twitter, but we'd love to get more active on Twitter. I'm more of a Twitter user myself, so I like Twitter more than I like Instagram. But yeah, hit us up, email us, let us know. Let us know what games you want to see featured on the podcast. If you have any stories or like experience from playing Super Mario Sunshine that you wanted us to share, maybe next week, if we get enough features, we can read a couple.
Absolutely, my friend. It's been a pleasure to record this episode with you.
You as well. And this is the first one where it's just Ben and I.
I know.
We forgot to mention that at the beginning. So
Can you believe it? My goodness.
Oh, I know. It's a glorious experience. The two of us here. Look at us.
It is. Oh my.
Who would have thought?
Oh my gosh. I'm not crying. You're crying. No, we.
Yes, I am.
We give thanks for Rick Firestone and all of the work that he does, and we look forward to talking with him again real soon. But this is Ben Bugale signing off and giving thanks for each of your sets of ears who happen to be listening to us talk about this game. Again, we encourage you to listen to it. So thanks so much for listening.
And I am Vince Bozelli. Goodbye.
Goodbye.